The hidden price of war. How conflict built the modern financial system. Here's a truth that rarely makes it into history books. America didn't just fight wars, it turned them into profit machines. While soldiers died on foreign soil and families rationed sugar at home, something else was happening behind the scenes. A financial revolution was unfolding, one that would reshape global power and create the economic system we're all living under today. The Great War, when Wall Street discovered wartime gold. Picture 1914. Europe is tearing itself apart. Millions of men march into trenches. Artillery shells rain down without end. And the bills? They're mounting higher than any government can pay. Enter America, not as a warrior yet, but as a banker and supplier. Wall Street saw opportunity where others saw only carnage. J.P. Morgan didn't just lend billions to Britain and France, billions that dwarfed America's entire federal budget at the time. He became their purchasing agent, funneling American steel, wheat, and weapons across the Atlantic. Every bullet, every shell, every ton of supplies came with one thing attached: interest payments flowing back to American banks. By the time the U.S. officially entered the war in 1917, the decision was already made, not just by patriotism, but by balance sheets. If the Allies lost, Wall Street lost. National security and financial interest had become one and the same. Meanwhile, ordinary Americans were sold a different story. Liberty bonds were marketed with emotional propaganda. Uncle Sam pointing his finger, celebrities parading through cities, even children collecting coins for thrift stamps. An entire nation was financially mobilized, convinced they were lending their savings for freedom. And they were. But while everyday people scraped together a few dollars, the real fortunes were being made at the top. War had become something new, a financial product. World War II, perfecting the formula. Fast forward to 1939. Europe is burning again, and America's factories are already humming before Pearl Harbor even happens. Roosevelt called the U.S. the arsenal of democracy, and he wasn't wrong, but he could have also called it the banker of democracy. The playbook from World War I was perfected. War bonds were issued on a massive scale. Over 85 million Americans bought them, raising more than $185 billion, covering over half the war's total cost. The message was clear: your sacrifice is your investment. But here's what changed everything. Corporations like Boeing, General Motors, and Ford shifted to military contracts with guaranteed profits. The government paid up front, factories churned out weapons, and shareholders collected dividends. War wasn't just an emergency anymore. It was an economic engine. And then something even more profound happened. During the war, the gold standard began to crumble. The dollar was transforming from a claim on gold into something backed by American industrial might and military power. After the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement, it became official. The dollar was crowned the world's reserve currency. Think about what that means. Wars that destroyed Europe made America not just a military superpower, but the center of global finance. Every loan, every bond, every factory retooled for war. All of it laid the foundation for American economic dominance that lasts to this day. The Cold War, when war spending became permanent. After 1945, something unprecedented happened. Instead of demobilizing, military spending kept growing. The Cold War turned defense budgets into a permanent fixture of the economy. Economists even gave it a name: military Keynesianism, the idea that war spending could keep prosperity humming indefinitely. What had been an emergency measure became structural policy. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Once you build a system where war spending generates profits, there's always an incentive for more conflict. Defense contractors thrived. Banks thrived. Politicians thrived. Ordinary citizens? They paid through inflation, taxation, and mounting debt. Vietnam, the war that broke the dollar. By the 1960s, the formula was fully embedded. Vietnam cost over $100 billion, astronomical at the time. Despite the human tragedy and eventual military failure, the financial machinery never stopped. Defense contractors supplied helicopters and napalm at guaranteed prices. Banks financed deficits. Americans shouldered the burden through higher taxes and inflation. President Johnson promised both guns and butter, war abroad and social programs at home. But you can't have both indefinitely. Deficit spending flooded the system, and in 1971, Nixon did the unthinkable. He ended the gold standard completely. The dollar became fiat currency, backed not by metal, but by trust in American power. And crucially, by its military might. Vietnam didn't just change geopolitics. It transformed the nature of money itself. Then came the 1970s oil shocks and the creation of the petrodollar system. Oil priced exclusively in U.S. dollars, backed by American military presence in the Middle East. Money and war were no longer separate conversations. They were one and the same. Modern wars. Profit without victory. Jump to 1991 and the Gulf War. Brief, televised, and incredibly profitable. Military contractors showcased precision-guided weapons on live TV, and their stock prices soared. War had become both a proving ground and a marketing campaign. Then came September 11th and the War on Terror, where the financialization of conflict reached levels never seen before. Afghanistan and Iraq cost an estimated $6 trillion when you factor in long-term veteran care and debt interest. Let that sink in. $6 trillion. Enough to fund free college for generations, rebuild crumbling infrastructure, or transform healthcare. Instead, it fed defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Halliburton. And here's the darkest irony. America rarely wins these wars in any traditional sense. Vietnam ended in withdrawal. Iraq descended into chaos. Afghanistan was abandoned after 20 years. But financially, the wars never failed. Contracts were fulfilled. Loans were repaid. Interest kept accruing. War became profitable regardless of outcome. For those at the top, endless conflict wasn't a problem. It was a business model. Today, the machine is still running. President Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex in 1961. Today, it's inseparable from the financial system itself. Defense spending exceeds $800 billion annually. Entire industries depend on it. Wall Street profits from financing it. Politicians protect it to secure votes. The cycle repeats endlessly. What does this mean for you? Every dollar in your wallet, every grocery bill, every tax deduction is tied to a system that has normalized war as a permanent background condition. Whether bombs are dropping or not, the machinery is always running. Look at recent crises through this lens. The 2008 financial collapse wasn't caused by war, but the response looked identical. Government bailouts, corporate profits protected, ordinary people left holding the bag. During the pandemic, trillions in stimulus flowed more to financial markets and corporations than to working people. The mechanisms perfected in wartime, deficit financing, bond issuance, corporate guarantees, now operate in peacetime too. The war machine has merged with the financial system itself. The uncomfortable truth. Once you understand this history, you realize something unsettling. Conflict and crisis aren't anomalies. They're features. They're opportunities for those who understand how to leverage debt, currency, and resources. For everyone else, they're traps. Inflation erodes savings. Bubbles burst. Debt tightens. The system thrives on volatility because volatility creates dependency. And dependency ensures control. What this means for you. Real financial education isn't just learning to budget or invest. It's understanding how the system itself is designed, who it serves, and recognizing the patterns that repeat throughout history. When you hear calls for intervention, when defense budgets rise, when your cost of living creeps higher, ask not just who the enemy is, but who is profiting. The next time someone tells you war is about honor, democracy, or freedom, remember, it's also about balance sheets, interest payments, and corporate profits. History doesn't repeat exactly, but the financial system ensures it rhymes in ways that keep you paying the bill. If you want real wealth and true financial freedom, you need to see past the slogans and propaganda. You need to recognize the machinery of money and power for what it is. Because if you don't understand it, it will crush you all the same. History has the answers. Now you know where to look.